Edem Ossai is a lawyer trained in Nigeria and a development actor. I run an organization called MAYEIN, which stands for Mentoring Assistance for Youths and Entrepreneurs Initiative. And we focus on promoting positive youth development in the country. Our work essentially rests on three pillars, which is youth civic engagement, youth leadership, and also girl-child empowerment. So we believe that, and studies have actually shown that young people have to be socialized into democratic culture. They have to have early positive civic experiences so that they form the knowledge, the competencies, and also the dispositions, for democracy. And this involves, taking part in the community, volunteering, understanding elections, understanding how decision-making processes work, understanding deliberation, getting feedback from people when you're in leadership positions instead of just sitting down in isolation and making decisions on behalf of people. For all of this to come into being, people have to have those experiences very early. In the homes you come from, you should be exposed to deliberation. Parents should ask children, oh, what's your feedback? What's your opinion? This doesn't, occur very frequently in Africa because culturally, young people are expected to be seen and not heard. In the institutions where we, go to school, leadership decisions are foisted on young people. So for instance, your school prefect, your school leader is going to be appointed by the school management. You're not going to have young people campaign or, go around their colleagues and say, this is what I want to do in the school if I would serve as your leader. So because of this, when they become 18, they've had no prior experience with, electing leaders, taking part in decision making. So it's an alien concept. And we understand that if we're going to halt that culture and replace it with one where people understand their role as citizens, then we've got to take part in their socialization. We've got to go to schools, use the media, and help them, form those attitudes early. First and foremost, we need to sort of confront the passive, attitude that exists. Very few young people are involved in political parties. This is because, like I said, in the end, it boils down to civic education. You're not taught early your civic duties. You're not taught early the platforms through which you can demonstrate those duties. So, political parties are something that are like a reserve of the elders. Like those people, it's a space they don't contemplate early. Now, when we begin to advocate for young people's inclusion, there's also the aspect of building the capacity of young people. So young people go into political parties. And I honestly believe that the young generation in Africa is going to be the generation that introduces or improves internal democratic structures within political parties. The elders have midwifed the democratic process. They've started democracy, but they came from a world of dictatorships and unitary, style of government. So they didn't necessarily embody democratic values. Young people going into political parties are going to have to build the internal structures of democracy. To be able to do that, they have to understand those concepts. They need capacity to be built. They also have to observe elections, best practices. Young people are going to need mentoring. Young people are going to need toolkits when they want to embark on voter education. Political parties are expected to come up with shadow policies, young people have to be exposed to policy formulation. These are things that many youths, because I belong to a political party currently in Nigeria, I'm the leader for COA political party in Oyo State. And I know that even I had to do, I still am doing a lot of capacity building in many areas, and many of the young people in our youth wing lack capacity. So these are many challenges that we face, but I think that a lot of effort must be put into capacity building and then practical experience. We've got to go and observe elections in countries and see the best practices. We've got to go for workshops that, equip us with those skill sets. And I think we'll keep evolving. I think this is a good step. For instance, programs put together by the AU, such as the Youth Consultation that brings together young people, including women, to have these conversations. I think the air has to be saturated with these conversations. It's sort of like the gender, movement, where we are constantly enlightening ourselves about, the need to position ourselves for leadership. The same way gender talked about the injustices, and everywhere you went to, from institutions to government to even communities, you would find that people were confronting, stereotypes and norms. So in politics, we're going to have to constantly like push the message out, because we're dealing with long-standing culture and attitudes. At the airport coming for this program, I encountered a young woman who was saying, I don't know what people think they want to go and do in politics. It's so dirty. So these are like long-held beliefs. They're going to be very difficult to, change. So if you're confronting culture, you've got to be very, very consistent in that and strategic in that. Not only are you going to put out the kind of messaging that makes women feel a sense of permission to go in there, you're going to have to provide mentoring. So the women who have, braved the space and gone in early have to look backwards and say, those young ones coming, let me use my story and present myself as a role model to sort of inspire and empower them to also step forward. We need that linkage. We need those ones, the few of them who have been in the space, to really connect with the younger ones. It's very important. And also, we're going to need political parties to be quite, deliberate and intentional about providing spaces for young women also. So political parties, women have many, there are many barriers. So for instance, in Africa, where politics is also very tribal, you would find that a woman who, for instance, maybe does not live in her state of origin, has married out of her state of origin, and so her name, on paper, when you read her name, if she goes back to her state of origin, her people will say, no, she's no longer one of us. If she goes to her husband's place, the husband's, where you want to contest, they say, we don't recognize you. And if you want to contest in the place where you live and have lived for many years, perhaps you're not from that tribe. So we're going to have to be very intentional. Political parties are going to say, look, once you qualify, you've demonstrated merit, and we believe that you have all the leadership values. We will ensure that you have level playing field to get a ticket, and we will mobilize and do the kind of grassroots organizing, that will guarantee you votes, so that would help compensate for what she cannot do in her individual capacity in terms of mobilizing. That space, these are some measures that are going to have to be deliberately, embarked upon to enable women. It's not gifting it to women, but understanding the peculiar challenges that a woman candidate is going to face against a male candidate, and what measures will you put in place. Ultimately, what you're focusing on is ensuring that the best of African leaders and African women leaders occupy those positions. My vision for the African woman is one where she is confident in her value and her worth. She's not seeking permission from external forces, including family members, including community, including society and its strictures, for her to express her value. My vision is where every woman is solving a problem and has built her competence to address that problem. And whenever anyone visits Africa, they understand that women are powerful, women are contributing. I hope for a future where we're not at odds with the male counterparts, but we are really complementing each other, because that way we'll galvanize and leapfrog the continent.